Hello everyone. Today we're going to build a practical AI automation workflow that connects OpenClaw n8n, YouTube, Neo4j, and Gemini Embedding. So let me show you this first. So we're going to use this new skill that we created and ask our AI agent to collect this YouTube video where I provided the YouTube video URL. So let's send this message to our AI agent. And after about a minute, I got this response that the metadata was successfully processed and also written into our Neo4j database. So here, this is our database, and we can see previously we have those 3 videos. So each of the green dot represent 1 video, and they are connected by the common topics. So let's now give it a new query. So let's select the videos. And now you can see we have 1 more video, and that is a new video that we just collected. And if you double click those videos, you can check their topics. And also you can see that some videos, they are connected with each other. So that means that they are talking about the same topics. We can also ask questions. So for example, here, let's say find a video talking about n8n. So we send out this query. And here we see 1 video that's talking about n8n. We have the title, we have the URL, and the viewer count, a like count, and also descriptions. Okay, so this is what we're going to build today. So it looks like intimidating. That is because in our previous videos, we already covered this part, so that we have an n8n workflow that was able to collect YouTube data. We also built a skill for our AI agent, where we just send a message in Telegram, and also AI agent can call that workflow, and also calling this API to collect data from YouTube. So today we're going to implement this part. That is that once we have the data that received, we're going to generate embeddings by using Gemini API. And Gemini is very generous. It has a free tier that allows you to create some embeddings. And then we're going to write data into our Neo4j database. So as I just showed earlier, so that is a graph database. Again, we are using a free tier of the database instance. So if you are not familiar with Neo4j or the embeddings, and please check our tutorials on LB Social where we talk about the graph database and also embeddings in other courses. Okay, so let's start. So first, we are going to create a free instance on Neo4j. So you can just go to Neo4j website and also register an account and also start create one free instance. So here I just log in with my Gmail account, and we just go ahead and also create instance. We're going to use a free one. Can give the name. So for example, this one, we just call it YouTube data and create that instance. All right, so here you will have the password and also username, and you should not share the password with other people. And also, I recommend that you download the credentials as well. So let's just go ahead and click download. All right, so now we can see that the instance is being created. So in the meantime, let's also create a Gemini API key. The easiest way to generate the Gemini API key is go to the Google AI Studio. You can just log in with your Gmail account and also go to API keys and also create an API key. I already have one that I created in one of the previous tutorials, so I'm going to use that one and also copy it, and now the API key is being copied. All right, so now let's go back to the n8n workflow dashboard. So here you can see we have our previous workflow that it was used to collect the metadata, and also we start our credentials of the YouTube data API. So now we're going to start Gemini API key first. So let's go ahead and create credentials, and let's just search Gemini. So we're looking for the Gemini API key, and here we just paste. Okay, so now the Gemini API key has been stored to this n8n workflow. Next, we're going to start the Neo4j database credentials. So before I start, we actually need to install a community node for the Neo4j. And the reason is because right now in the workflows, there is no existing node that can connect with Neo4j. And we're going to go to the community node, and we're going to install a community node that is called n8n nodes Neo4j. So let's go ahead and also install that one. The name is just called n8n nodes Neo4j. Keep in mind that not all the nodes are safe to use, so only use the nodes that you feel comfort. So I'm going to just install this node. Alright, so now the node has been installed, which means that now we can use this node to communicate with our Neo4j database. So let's go back and also install the credentials. So let's go to credentials, and here we're going to create a new credential. So since we already installed the Neo4j community node, so let's now search Neo4j. Alright, now you can see we have this new credential type that is Neo4j API. Go ahead, click continue. So here they're asking for the URI, the username, password, database, etc. So remember that when we created the Neo4j instance, we downloaded the credentials in the txt files. So if you open that txt files, you will be able to find out the URI, the username, password, etc. We just copy and paste those URI, username, password, database name, etc. into this credential. Okay, so that is how it look like. So here I provided my URI, username, the password, and also database name. So we can just go ahead and also click save. Alright, so next, we're going to create a workflow. So we already have workflow that to collect metadata with the YouTube API. So we're going to create a copy of this workflow. We're going to using this part, but we're going to add two more nodes that to create embeddings and now store the data into the Neo4j database. So let's go back to the dashboard, and here we're going to make a copy of this workflow. And for this workflow, let's give it a new name. So here I just call it a Neo4j embedding. And next, so we're going to first disconnect those webhook. The reason is because we need to manually test something that before we publish that. Let's bring the set node. So here we're going to looking for set, or now it's called edit field. And here we're going to add one more field, and the field name, call it YouTube, and the value. So here I just bring our latest YouTube video, connect that with the workflow. So once we have these descriptions, etc., we're going to add one more step that to create the document text that can be used to generate the embeddings. It's more like a data cleaning process. So one more data cleaning process. So let's find out the code mode, and we're going to use JavaScript one more time. And here we're going to call the node build document text, and the JavaScript is like this. We are going to post everything on LB Social website, so you can check the website. So let's run this code. So the purpose is that we have this document text, and we're going to create embeddings on those document text. All right, so next, we're going to generate the embeddings. So here we're going to use an HTTP request. So let's add one more node and call HTTP request. So here we're going to call the Gemini API. So we're using the post method, and the URL is this one. So we're using Gemini embedding 001 to create that embeddings. We are going to bring our Gemini API. So here we're going to choose predefined credentials, and let's just search the Gemini API. All right, so here you can see the Gemini API is added. We're also going to send the body. So let's send body, and the body type is JSON document. And this is a JSON document. So here you can see that we have this document text that been created in the previous step. So that's this one. And also we're going to pass this JSON document to the Gemini embedding API. We also are using this one, 768 dimensions. So that is, I think, enough for this demo. So let's try to run this code. Great. So now you can see we have the embeddings. So this will generate embeddings. Generally speaking, if they are talking about similar concept, they are closer in this multi-dimensional embeddings. And if you go to your Google AI Studio and go to your API usage, if you switch to the last 1 hour, and you will see that we just called this embedding model. So here we have these embeddings. So we need to bring the embeddings back to our original documents. So let's add one more step. And here we're also still using the code mode, and we're using the JavaScript. So this is a JavaScript that look like. So that is our output. So here you can see we bring the previous data like descriptions, titles, etc. We also combine that together with the embeddings. Okay, so that's the data that we're going to insert into our Neo4j database. And our next step is that we're going to generate the Cypher query. So we have the original data, and we're going to insert into our Neo4j database by using the Cypher query. So let's add one more node, and we're using JavaScript. So let's test that out. So you can see we're going to create different nodes. We're going to create a channel node, a video node, and also topic node. And then we're going to also build the connections among those nodes. So we do have a course talking about graph database on our LB social channel. So if you are interested in learning more about the graph database, please check those online courses. And now we're going to bring our community node, which is the Cypher query. So we're going to execute this query so that bring the data into our graph database. So let's now find out that Neo4j node. So Neo4j. And for this one, we're going to just run this one. So that is the database execute query. So we're using our Neo4j account. So for the query, okay, so that's a query that we generated in the previous step. All right, so now let's just run this query. All right, so we can see it is success. So let's go back to our database and see whether or not we have those nodes created. So we go to our Neo4j database and let's go to the query. Let's just connect to our instance, and we connect to this instance. All right, so let's click the video node. Yeah, so that's a video node that we just created. And if we click topic, so you can see that video has multiple topics. And if we click channel and we have one channel, I believe that is our LB social channel. If you want to see how those nodes are connected, you just double click. See, this channel published this video, and this video has those topics. And if you look at this video, you will be able to see that we have those embeddings. So the embeddings will be used for the semantic search. If you check our previous tutorials, there are several ways to use those embeddings. You can build your AI agent to perform the semantic search, or you can build your own app. All right, so now let's go back to our workflow. So now let's just delete this connection. So this was used for the test, and let's connect with our webhook so that we're going to use the OpenClaw to provide the URLs. So we're also going to return the response back to OpenClaw. So let's go ahead and also go to publish, and let's give it version name and publish. Now we're going to ignore all the warnings. All right, so now we have this workflow that's being published. Let's go back. So here you can see we have the previous workflow, and now we have a new workflow. So I'm going to disable the previous one. So just make sure that our OpenClaw will not be confused. So I'm going to just archive this workflow, so that the one that we created in the last week. All right, so now we're going to go back to OpenClaw and also tell the OpenClaw to use the new workflow. So here we are on this OpenClaw dashboard. So in our previous tutorials, we have the one skill that we created, that is n8n YouTube metadata. So just make sure that you disable that skills first, because we're going to create another very similar skills. So we don't want the OpenClaw to be confused. All right, so here you can see that I just double check the skills that a main agent can access. Looks like that the YouTube metadata skill is not enabled. So here, let's just use the skill creator. So we're going to build a new skill. So let's find out the skill creator. Okay, and now OpenClaw is asking, okay, what kind of skill that you want to build. So here I just provide this prompt. So it's a pretty long prompt. Just tell that we're going to create a skill called YouTube Neo4j embedding. And just make sure that we tell that the webhook address and also format and also some other nodes. So we send out this prompt. All right, now we can see that OpenClaw has created this skill. So let's try to run this skill. Here I'm telling OpenClaw that using this skill to process this YouTube video. So let's send the prompt. Great, and now we can see that this video has been extracted. And now let's just double check the video node one more time. Yes, so indeed that we have two nodes that have been added. And this is a new video that we just added. And if we expand both videos, and we can see both have the same topic that is talking about the AI agent and also the OpenClaw. Alright, so that completes our today's tutorial. So we built a for pipeline, connect OpenClaw and n8n, a YouTube data API, Gemini embedding, and also Neo4j. So from Telegram, OpenClaw can now trigger this n8n workflow and collect those official tweet metadata, generating this Gemini embeddings, and store the data into Neo4j as part of our video knowledge graph. The key idea is a modular design. So OpenClaw handles the agent interface, n8n handles automation, Gemini creates embeddings, and Neo4j stores graph and vector data.